Everyone, welcome to Angel Heart Radio, where we inspire you to remember your magnificence. And today we have the magnificent Janet Hickox with us again.
Thank you. Naya went away.
Yes, Anaya did go away, but she'll be back in a second. So I'll just continue on because I can be co-host. So that's all. This is a wonderful thing with technology, isn't it?
Right.
We just don't know what's going to happen. So we do have Janet here today because when we talked to her, was that only a week ago, about what was happening? And we arranged to come back and talk about the amazing solstices and equinoxes, which are such an important part of our astrological charts and where we're going on the planet at this time. So welcome, Janet, and so pleased that you're here with us today.
Thank you, Carol Ann. It's always great to be here. And you're right. When we met last week, we were really talking about the overview for June. Actually, was it last week or the week before? Might have been the week before. And we were looking at the energy of the entire month of June. So, that's a big task. In our conversation, we happened to mention the solstice coming and how looking at a chart or looking at the human design, hey, she's popped back in.
Right.
Did you have a nice trip to your other alternate universe?
Twice. I kept shutting myself down, and isn't that interesting?
It is.
I think you could probably think about that for a little bit. Anyway, in our conversation that 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how the solstice or the equinox time presents us with an opportunity to take a look at the 3-month period of time ahead and get sort of a read on the energetics of it. Now, it's not certainly a one-to-one relationship, kind of more of an overview. And I think what really piqued interest is when I mentioned that in human design, every season is kicked off, if you will, by a visit to the sun, from the sun to one of the gates of love. And there are several gates of love, but there are 4 main ones that the solstices and equinoxes land on. And it's really giving us an opportunity to retool or rekey our lives to engage more lovingly in the things that we do with one another, or the way that we treat ourselves, etc. So in the grander scheme of things, the gates of love are the gates of the love of spirit, the gate of the love of the physical being or the body, and love of embodiment, the love of humanity, and the gates of self-love. So we have self-love, humanity, being in the physical, and then being in the spiritual, or a blending of them both. And at each one of those passageways between the seasons, we have a week's worth or 5 to 6 days worth of energy devoted to that turning of the season. And it's the only system, I don't think in astrology itself, we ever look at the turning of the seasons as embodying more love. We just don't.
I love that. That is so great, isn't it? And this is another reason why we are so blessed to have you with us, Janet, because you have all this knowledge that you are so happy to share with everyone. And it always contains not just a seed, for me anyway, but like a whole field of seeds.
That's so funny, Anaya, because in my own personal human design, the earth, which is the grounding force for all of us, it's at the gate 11, which is the gate that's full of ideas.
I love it.
I call them little seeds, right? It's planting seeds.
And so you do it so well, Janet.
It's just one of those natural things. Like when you're doing something that just comes without even think. I mean, I don't think about it. I just go, oh yes, let's put this and this and this together, and it creates a fantastic new picture, right? A new work of art, as it were. So the importance, though, is for us to kind of understand, some seasons as we pass through these different gates, things are more difficult than at other times, right? There's been, some kinds of upheaval, and then we pass through that gate and we're looking ahead at, well, how do we come through this? But we always know that whatever it is that's happening, if we apply more and more love to that experience, then we have a better way of coming through it. Whether it's loving one another more fully, if it's loving ourselves more fully, or loving spirit or the body, it doesn't really matter. Love is the answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
And it's, Caroline, you have been such a way shower for lots of us over the years. And it's very true that you have a great way of bringing this forward and reminding us in very simple terms that this is a truth. This is a guiding light. So to be here with you and with Janet on the same platform is so wonderful and exciting and enriching. So I'm really excited, Janet, to learn now what, with the solstice and the human design, what this is bringing us toward, what the opportunities are for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can look at the opportunities in two completely different ways. One through astrology, which I do want to get to because it's fascinating too. But if we look at this through human design, we're looking at the sun and the earth. These are the two main players in your human design chart. And everybody, no matter where you live, Australia or the USA or Canada or China, we're all going to be impacted by the energies of the sun at the gate 15, which is the gate of the love of humanity, or also called in quantum human design, the gate of compassion. And the earth will be at the gate 10, which is called the gate of the love of the self, or self-love, right? We can just bring it down to self-love. Now, the relationship between the sun and the earth is important to note because they're not just in these little vacuums, the sun doing his thing, the earth doing her thing. No, they work together. In the earth system. The earth herself is what needs to be grounded in if we want to reach the highest energy that the sun is bringing to us. So if we remember, the sun is bringing us the love of humanity, or the compassionate, loving heart, then the grounding piece is in self-love. So fascinating, because it seems to say that at this season, what we need in order to be more loving and kind and generous to our fellow human beings is a very healthy dose of self-love first.
Yeah. Because
Absolutely.
if you don't know how to love yourself and you don't love yourself, then it's not possible to love another person the same way, or even to show them kindness and compassion. So loving oneself is so important.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, the angel showed me once, just before we move on from this, the angel showed me once, and it was so beautiful. And it was at a time where I was really struggling with self-love and self-care and compassion. But I was very hard on myself. And they showed me this beautiful little like mini video, right? And it was me walking down the street full of self-love. And every footstep I left behind me energetically was like a puddle of love, so that others could walk through that as well. And that really, it really resonated with me, and it really encouraged me. But more than that, it really inspired me to understand that the most important thing I can do on this planet is to love, honor, care for, and respect myself.
Absolutely. That's so well said. And when we're looking at the human design year, it's a little offset from the calendar year. The calendar year we think of as January 1st, but the human design year really doesn't begin until the 22nd of January. And so we have this pause, I guess you could say, right, between what we think of as the calendar, which is mechanical, the beginning of that calendar year, and then when the true year really begins, which is 22 days later, right? It's not right on top. So it always gives us this time at the beginning of the year anyway, to go inward and to really consider, things like, well, what do I want from this year? Or how am I going to change things this year? And it isn't even really a true beginning because remember, the winter solstice would have just been a week or so before that. And it is another gateway, like we're walking through today, only, or not today, on the 22nd, only flipped, right? So instead of it being the earth grounding in self-love like it is now, the earth grounds in the love of our fellow human beings and reaches up to create self-love. So the solstices are reflections of one another, both seasonally, right? And as well in our human design, it's reflected. Now, going back to the beginning of the human design year, we start a quarter on which we're sowing the seeds, right? We're starting to plant the seeds of what will come for the year, of what we want to grow. When we get to summer or springtime, we start to see those shoots coming up. And then in the summertime now, we start this process through cultivating self-love and love of our fellow human beings. We start to move more toward the harvest time of the year. Everything starts to come into its fullness. So the love energy for us, typically in the summertime or in your winter, because we're flipped seasonally, is, even though it may not feel to you like it's the coming into its fullness because, it's not your summer, so to speak, it still is coming into a fullness of sorts, right? The energetic signature is. Now, when we look at each of those gates separately, they don't, the keywords, self-love and love of humanity or compassion, I mean, they tell a part of the story, but there's always a bit of a hologram, if you will, or a holographic view through which the energy can manifest, meaning that we can manifest these energies in the shadow, in the gift level. Now I'm kind of going off to the gene keys a bit, where Richard Rudd has these things, sort of organized in levels of a hologram. And then the highest level being called the siddhi, or the highest exceptional expression of these energies. So when we're looking at the energy of self-love, in its lowest energy, it gives us this feeling that we're not worthy, or that we're not lovable, that there's something like fundamentally wrong with us. Victim consciousness often comes along with that. Like, I can't seem to get myself to a point where I'm feeling, heard, seen, valued, recognized, that kind of thing. Yet the lesson here is about learning to love ourselves. So no matter where we are on that spectrum, the whole challenge is to learn to love ourselves more and more, right? To move out of that victim consciousness, to rise up and stop settling for the loss of our identity or the loss of our self-love, right? Because that kills everything, if you will. And when we master this energy, the love of ourself becomes the source of our true creative power. So we have a reason for doing this, right? It's not just, oh yeah, pay lip service to it and say, oh yeah, I love myself. No, it's not just that. It's really truly embracing it as a true expression of who you are and what you're here to share with the world.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know how impossible it is to get up in front of people like we are at this moment. I don't know if we're live broadcasting to Facebook, but I think we are, aren't we? So there's the potential of all this, audience listening. And if we did that from a sense of I'm not good enough, or I, don't know who I am, it is very difficult to be able to share the message. Yep. So we have to be able to do this. It supports not only ourselves, but other people. Like you said, the angels with the, walking in that self-love, other people come behind and they're absorbing that as well. Now, sometimes this energy then becomes self-loathing, which would be the lowest expression, right? So self-loathing or blaming others for where you are or what's happened to you. The whole pathway of self-love begins with empowerment, self-empowerment. Yes. So this is the high side of the energy that we're walking through. Now, we have to deal with that first. We can't just embrace. It's harder to embrace compassion for your fellow humans in any true way if you are not loving to yourself and kind to yourself. Yeah.
So Janet, just on that, can I just say then that if anyone watching is in that self-loathing, and it's a really dark place to be because I've been there, I was there for a lot of my life. If you are there, we're here to give you encouragement and support and to say it's not the end. It's not your story. It's not who you are. So if you're experiencing that right now, what Janet is sharing today is really revealing the opportunities that this particular time has to help you move through that, right?
Right. To embrace yourself, right?
Yeah.
To
just exactly who you are. Yeah. Because it's
all of your highs and all of your lows.
Yeah.
We're all a part of who you are. Here's the thing about that is that we are part of the divine.
Yeah.
And, we're the interface really between the divine and the earth. And in that respect, you are intrinsically valuable and worthy of love and of having everything your heart desires. It's only I want to say the ego, but I don't want to place a blame kind of thing, but it's when the messages get mixed up and the world starts to feel like it's beating you down, where we begin to really question our lovability. And sometimes that has to do with our parents and our family growing up. If we didn't get the idea of what love was, it might be very difficult now as you get older to embrace that idea. But you have as much opportunity to embrace that as anybody else does who's already got an inkling about what that is. It's never too late to start loving yourself or seeing yourself with kinder eyes.
Exactly.
And it's like, can I come to you in a second? I just want to say it is really like the difference between an excuse and a reason. Okay, this might be the reason this is happening, but when we don't lean on it as an excuse, we then are automatically empowering ourselves, aren't we, to understand that, okay, maybe I need to know where this has come from, but in that knowledge, again, the seeds of truth, of the magnificence of my being, they're all residing in there. And if we choose to become the gardeners of our own soul, I can't remember who said that, but it's such a beautiful term. If we choose to become the gardeners of our own soul, then we really have a very strong input and validation about how we want to move forward from this moment in time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's really then that's when our choice comes into what we want to do with our lives. And the saying that I resonate so well is, I'm not what happened to me, I'm what I chose to become. And I think we all have that choice, so we can step out of whatever that energy is that is holding us down there. We all have the choice to step out and become who we're truly meant to be in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And that energy of the love you were talking about with that gate, the gate of love, we have that right here, right now, ready, willing, and able to support us, Janet.
We always have it. Here's the deal. In human design, we have it all. Even if it's not defined or colored in, if it's white or if it's blank, you still have it, right? At the very heart of your DNA, you are a being of love, right? You are a being that is loving and deserving of love, that is both divine and human, that is also, living out how to incorporate more and more love into your life, right? In many different ways. When we look at human design, the center, how it has all of the different geometric centers, the center that all of the gates of love are on is called the magnetic monopole, or the identity center. And this is fascinating because the magnetic monopole is just that. It's a magnetized pole, and it has magnetism that can only attract, can't repel, right? It can't repel, it can only attract. And so one only needs to look at the quality of the relationships they're in, the things that they have in their lives, the work that they have, how they're feeling fulfilled, to know what it is that you're attracting. And the reason why you would be attracting it is because it's what you're focused on.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, I just love the way things work. I just want to share with you. I put a post up on Angel Heart Radio on our Facebook page this morning, and it's just so darn perfect. I was just sort of, you know, chatting with the angels this morning, and I felt really inspired to create something. So what do you want me to say? And they said, I don't know whether you can see this. You'll see it on our Angel Heart
Possibilities.
Right. See, there you go. Your life is a vibrational field of profound possibilities. So keep your focus on and how worthy you already are.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Very true.
Boom. I like it. Boom.
You know, I just love it. It's another validation. It's another clear sign, isn't it? It's gathering all those signs to us and giving thanks and being grateful for them, and then taking them into our heart and remembering them. Yeah.
You know, I think remembering is such a great word, Anea, because I think we've forgotten, you know, in the process of coming into the planet and being conditioned, let's say, by the culture, the society, the families, and what have you, we have totally got amnesia. We have totally forgotten the truth of who we are, but we get glimpses of it periodically. And if we could hold on to those glimpses, like the angels giving you that message, it's so profound because it really quantifies who you are at soul level, right? Someone who is here, who is valued, who has value, who's loved, and has, sorry, I'm getting my cousin calling me. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not.
We can't hear it.
We can't hear it.
Oh, good. Very good. Very good. So anyway, it is very valuable to remember that you are an attractive force, that we all are an attractive force. If you don't like what right, let me back up 1 second. You're attracting all the time.
Yeah.
And you're attracting based on what you're focused on, not just from, you know, your thinking or your mental capacities, but from the actions that you're taking. They are also an attractive force. So if you don't like what's happening in your life, change your actions.
Yes.
It's so simple.
Things. It's not even great big things. It's a little tweak sometimes, isn't it?
Right.
And I love that, because when you were saying, you know, we are attractive, I think this is a great way of coming back into the meaning, the value, and the prosperity of what it means to be attractive, because we've forgotten, right? We forgot what it means to really be attractive.
Absolutely. And it's really, it sounds so simple to say, you know, take a look around you in your life. Right? It tells you what your focus is on because of what's been manifested in your life. And if you don't like what's been manifested in your life, change what you're focusing your actions on.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly right.
You know, how many times have you been in a low mood and you just go and you give somebody a hug and it uplifts you, or you just say, you know, thank you for, you know, this relationship. Thank you for my health. Thank you for my roof over my head. And it takes and changes the energy because you start attracting things differently because you're focusing on something different.
Yeah.
So true. I mean, you know, if we're watching telly, for example, and it's a program we just don't like and we're not enjoying, I mean, we don't just sit there and watch it. We change the channel, and we can do that in our lives as well, can't we, Caroline?
Then we definitely can. We don't have to sit there and bring the same things over and over again, because we can choose to change it and attract to our lives what we really want.
Yeah, I love that. Change the channel, because it sounds so simple, right? You just pick up your remote control and you go boom, boom, and change the channel. Well, that's the same thing in your life, right? Change what you're doing.
Yeah.
Change the channel.
Super, super simple.
And the thing is, it really feels difficult in the beginning when you start this work. It often does, and it's okay. So if you're watching or listening on the podcast and you're finding it challenging, please know it's not that you're doing things wrong. It's that you're in a period of transition. And transition is often bumpy and uncomfortable. But when you get through it, it's like the turbulence on the plane. When you get through it, you think, thank God for that.
Yes, exactly. And, turbulence is the name of the game right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
In human design, those outer planets are sitting in places that bring up crisis and turbulence and crazy making, things. Um, because we're all in a process of transitioning now anyway, right? There's this big change afoot in our awareness and our consciousness, if you will. And evolution is underway, has been underway for a while. And right now it feels like we're failing miserably at this transition. But you're always in the dark before the light, right?
Yeah.
If you're learning a new skill, there's always the frustration that comes when I can't get that done, and then you just keep practicing until one day, boom, you have it made,
Got it.
and
it seems so
and you
easy
don't go
then.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
kind of where we are in this as humans.
So- Yeah, absolutely. Because I didn't do it in the beginning, everyone, Janet's website, as you can see, is living-astrology.com. Now you can go onto Janet's website at any stage and get yourself a free human design chart. And that will come with some explanations and a little mini reading, if you will. So that's a really great thing to do, because Janet is also on Facebook and on YouTube. And look, you've got your own channel, you've got your own podcast, you're bringing information out all the time. So I highly recommend that you go and like Janet's page and visit her on her website and get yourself one of those charts.
Thank you.
It's important, Janet, because not only do we want to support you, we also want to support everyone watching and listening, because I know firsthand, we've known each other a long time. You've been on Angel Heart Radio a long time. We know that what you bring forward is very, very valuable. And we want people to have the opportunity to really, connect with that.
Yeah, thank you. That's very generous of you. And it's the path of service that I feel like I've chosen in this life, to be able to, tell people that there's something more than what you are, so much more than what you believe yourself to be. And that goes for everybody, even, the hardest luck case has a lot going for them, right? They just have to find the gold again, right? Find that inner peace.
So if I can just say something for a second, I've had my human design chart done by Janet, and it just blew me away. But then the other day I received my astrology report from Janet, and to say that I was blown away again is an understatement. I could not believe all that you had put into this report. It's going to take me, I think, a couple of weeks to digest it all. It's just so amazing. And I got so many little ticks along the way as I was going through it. I also would recommend that for everybody. If you just need to come back into your heart and to come back into where you really are in this lifetime, then
see how beautiful you really are.
Yeah,
right? To see how unique you are.
Exactly.
Everybody's unique, and everybody is needed, right? As a piece of the tapestry on the planet. If you have a tapestry and one piece is missing, it kind of looks odd, right? It's quality of it isn't very good anymore. So we need everybody's, participation in as high a way as they can. Especially if we want to get beyond some of the big things in our path right now, the obstacles that are sitting in front of us, and the very grounded things that we can do as far as loving ourselves, and that helping us to love others. So small, so little, but such a big contribution to the changes on the planet. So now let's look a little bit deeper at the gate 15, which is the one the sun will be sitting at. So we talked about self-love as being the thing that we need to have implanted terra firma in order to be able to get to compassion, being able to see our fellow human beings in a greater light. So the lesson or challenge, I guess you could say here, is to really learn to allow yourself to be in the flow of your own rhythm, right? To be in your own rhythm. and then be able to see how other people are in their own rhythm, and to have compassion. Then compassion's like a natural byproduct of you being in your own rhythm and you allowing other people to be in their own rhythm, right?
Yeah.
Then you can see with more compassionate eyes. And then not to beat yourself up because maybe you're, not as good as that person. And that's, again, a value judgment that you're making. You're just different, right? You're just different. You're not any better and you're not any worse, and they aren't any better or any worse than you are. We're just all in this together. And then to have the courage to live out those highest values, right? The courage. And then to share from the heart without cutting it off, right? Sometimes we withdraw or we hold back. And at this time of year, we sort of are reminded to open our hearts and to let that energy flow from us and not be held back by us. So there's that. In this gate, I don't want to confuse people, but this particular gate gives some sort of direction to love, right? In our lives. It gives direction to life force in our lives, meaning where am I going to put my energy, right? We all have this access to some kind of energy, whether it's sustainable energy for the generator types, or is it, on again, off again energy, whatever it is that's, your personal setup. This particular gate gives direction for the flow of that compassion.
Right.
And it has to be started from that self-love. We're going back to the 10. When we are unbalanced in this, our self-judgment leads us to judge others.
Oh, yes.
Right? When we're in
so
judgment
simple.
of someone else.
So simple when it's expressed and you just ding.
Yes.
Yeah, because really, when we're judging another person, we're really not judging that person. We're judging the reflection of ourselves that we see in that person, whether it's something we wish we had more of, or something that we wish we had less of, whatever it is, right? It's a self-judgment. And in that case, then sometimes what we try to do is force ourselves to be something that we're not, or to put ourselves into a rhythm that's outside of the natural rhythm of our own lives. And that, of course, that creates what we call interference patterns, and it blocks love right at its base. So we want to be able to be in our own rhythm. We want to be willing and able to do what's right for each one of us, because that is the basis of self-love. And then we can offer that and honor that for others, which is the wider compassion, love of humanity kind of energy. So we want to be able to hold to our own flow and rhythm in our own lives, while allowing other people to do that as well, and understanding we're not all on the same flow.
Yeah.
No.
Easier said than done, but so valuable and important.
Correct.
So very important.
Correct.
This is one of the things I love about the human design, is that we have so much information that tells us about, what gates we're at, what those gates mean, what's opening and closing. And for me, it offers a great opportunity to, because I don't know much about astrology or very little about human design. However, it shows me exactly what's being presented for me at this moment.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the geometry, if you will, of your own human design chart, and I know right now we're not really, talking about individuals, but if you were to understand what your own chart looks like, you'll notice that different transits of different planets offer up opportunities in a sort of rhythmic nature, right? The moon, very rhythmic, every month coming back to the same places, right? And triggering more ability to live in a new energy. Outer planets much slower, but also giving us that same opportunity. But the sun and the earth, very rhythmic. So right now we can see the rhythm because we're at the gateways between solstices and equinoxes and things like that. So we already kind of tap into that rhythm. It also tells us that we are always able to take in new energy, choose how we are going to use that new energy and apply it to our lives or not.
Yeah.
Right? No one's saying you have to become more loving and kind and gentle to yourself. No one is saying that you have to love others more than you've been loving others. But we have this opportunity right now to reevaluate that, to fine tune it, to tweak it in our lives as we go into this particular season.
Which is
so it's kind of fun.
Exciting. That is so empowering. That, you know, I remember the angel saying, choice must be made before choice can be, choice must be offered before choice can be made, or something like that. And it's like, of course, we have to have all these choices presented to us. Otherwise, how do we exercise our free will, and how do we choose to grow beyond the current limitations we may be imposing upon ourselves?
And even if you choose not to grow or evolve, you still have made a choice.
Still made the choice.
We're always making choices. All we're saying here is to start making a choice that's in alignment with the love of your own self, and with the in doing that, then you're offering that also to your fellow human beings. So we're uplifting the whole of the planet in this particular case. So that's the and again, that's rhythmic. Every season that changes, we have a new alteration of that pattern. And at winter solstice for the Northern Hemisphere, at your summer solstice in Australia, you're going to have the exact mirror image of what's available now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at the two equinoxes, we have different gates of love that are offered up, right? And that, those two seasons, what we have is the gate of the love of spirit and the love of of being in the body. So it is inviting us to kind of ground ourselves more fully by being holistic, by being spirit in the body, and, you know, really enjoying your 3D experience, because that's why you chose to come here.
Yeah.
And seeing that as the divine experiencing itself through you.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So spring and fall bring us those energies.
Yeah.
So, but it's pattern that repeats every year. Every year.
Rhythm of life. The rhythm
right.
of life.
And isn't it interesting to see that the rhythm of life is anchored by love?
Yes. It's like you can see this whirling going around, and right in the center, holding it, allowing it to go round and round, is love.
Round and around.
That's the pivot point.
And being anchored by a magnet, a monopole that is only attractive in nature and can only attract what you are making choices to allow into your life.
That's probably one of the best things I've heard on today's program, like the most empowering. It really is sticking in my brain. It's wonderful, because that's one of the easiest things to forget.
Yeah.
We think everything happens to us, and it's a really beautiful choice to start to see that in a different way. So again, everyone, living-astrology.com, and find Janet on Facebook and YouTube, please. You'll love it. You'll be so glad. Yep.
So now, if we turn this over a little bit now to astrology, because in an astrology chart, what I can see now, I've actually set this for Australia. Your winter solstice is on June 22nd at midnight 58. So 2 minutes to 1 in the morning. So most people probably wouldn't be awake, but if you chose to be awake and meditate on how you can embody more love into your life, that would be a great use of moving through that gateway. Or if you choose to, before you go to sleep at that night, then to put that kind of, you know, in kind of give the angels a hint that that's what you want to work through while you're sleeping. That would be the time for you. And when we, and for us in the Northern Hemisphere, that is occurring also, but June 21st at my time, I think it was 7:58 in the morning, 10:58 if you are on the East Coast of the USA, and all the time zones in between. So we're split by the international date line here because you're having it a day later, but just barely, right? If it was an hour earlier, it would have been the same day. But it's not. And what I do is I draw up a chart, an astrology chart, and I see if I can show it because I have background. Yeah, no, it got to show it. There's a piece of paper there, but
on an angle, maybe. There you go.
There we go. So I take and I can draw up a chart for the moment that the sun, in this case, gets to the summer or winter solstice. Now, this solstice is based on the point in which the sun gets to 0 degrees Cancer, right? That's the solstice point, 0 degrees Cancer for your winter, my summer, but also Capricorn for your summer, my winter. And the other 2 points then are Aries and Libra for the equinoxes. So as soon as the sun gets to that 0 degrees, boom, we call it the solstice. In this case, right? It's a solstice or an equinox. So if we take and we draw a chart up for that moment, it gives us kind of view, if you will, to what the planetary energies are doing, how they're lined up. And while there's not a one-to-one relationship on everything that will come to pass, because there's 7 billion of us or so that have free will, it would be incredibly difficult to predict everything that could happen. It gives us insight into what is available. Now, I did this in the spring equinox this year, and it was very tense looking. And I think most of us would agree that it's been a pretty tense spring. Yeah. Or, and I keep forgetting we're still in spring. It feels like summer, but it isn't quite summer yet here. So, it kind of bore out that I didn't know exactly what the tension was going to be from, but I kind of thought it might be political. And in this country, for sure, it's been that way. Now, when I look at the summer solstice or winter solstice, it's a completely different view. And one that makes me go, oh, I'm kind of excited now for this season to unwind or to, be revealed to us as time goes on. And the very first thing that jumps into my awareness is that the solstice happens with 5 planets, 5 in Leo, the sign of courage, the sign of the heart. Leo in astrology rules the heart. It rules creative self-expression. It, has, of course, the drama queen, drama king sort of energy to it as well. But when Leo is living in its magnificence, it is generous. It is magnificent. It is magnanimous. I'm trying to think of these wonderful words.
Wow.
You're doing well.
And, with a lot of planets in that sign at the solstice, it shows that we could have some real largesse over the summer, some real, heart-to-heart sharing, benefic energy that is flowing from us. Now, that's not to be Pollyanna and just say it's all good, right? Because there's also, the negative side of Leo that tends to bring up the narcissistic type of personalities or pridefulness and, lots of, not so pleasant characteristics. And when we have a lot of planets in one sign, in astrology, we call that a stellium. And we call it a stellium because it means that there's a lot of force coming through one sign. And the moon is one of the planets in Leo. In fact, at 8 degrees of Leo that day. Venus is also in Leo, and she's there for an extended period of time. If we have a moment, I'll talk more about that. The black moon Lilith is also there. So there's some shadow energies creeping into Leo that we have to look at. Mars also in Leo, and as well, Pallas Athena, who's not truly a planet. She's an asteroid or a dwarf planet, I guess we could say. But she really represents the wisdom, the spiritual wisdom that when applied to the world is really mind-blowing, right? That we can just, right? We apply spiritual wisdom to something, and it's like layers of insights can come to us.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of energy. Leo is it rules love and romance.
Wow.
It is a sign that rules the creative energy, the way that we want to express ourselves creatively. And love and romance, of course, but also joyful expression, joy in Leo. And it rules play and fun and vacations and all that
I'm liking
kind of
that.
stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And in Australia, if we were to look at the houses, which it's impossible really, because it is with a person, it's easy to look at the house and go, okay, this is the area of life. But if we looked at the Australian country, this would be falling in the 5th house, which is also a Leo house, that it kind of mirrors this idea of joy and fun and bliss and lovingness and all of that type of thing, but also with the potential of those more arrogant, prideful kind of energies that we want to, sort of avoid. Now Venus is in this sign for a long time, right? She just went to Leo on, I think it was Sunday of last week or Monday of last week. And she'll be here until October 8th. So she's here for a long time, because she's moving forward right now, but she'll retrograde, meaning she'll appear to be moving backward. She doesn't actually move backward. She just appears to be moving backward. And then she'll move forward again. So her whole cycle of time is going to be from June 5th, I believe it was, until November or October 8th.
October. Yep. Wow.
Yeah. Now, Venus in astrology rules love.
Yeah.
She rules relationships and finances, and she also rules value and self-worth. And that's sort of mirroring this energy that we've been talking about through human design. So we start the solstice with Venus in forward motion, reminding us to love ourselves, to be worthy, that we are worthy, that there's nothing we need do to be worthy. Our worth isn't based on what we do. And reminding us that our relationships are great mirrors for us in terms of, how are we doing, right? How are we doing in our lives? The Black Moon Lilith. Now, she's an interesting piece because she's sort of the shadow. Like if you're driving, on the road, and you have to turn and look over your shoulder because we have blind spots, right?
Yep,
she represents our blind spot. So the collective blind spot at this point is in resisting change, resisting the force of love on the planet, and holding ourselves back from all that could be loving. And usually that's because our egos get in the way. So Leo, Black Moon Lilith, about change, resisting change, but also from egoic energies that are holding us back. And then Mars and the Black Moon Lilith are actually in an exact conjunction that day. So that's interesting too, because Mars in Leo kind of overblows everything.
Oh, look, you've got no idea. You don't know what's happening here. We've just gotten a message from one of our treasures, Belinda. And this is so great. And it's such a great opportunity just to ask you about this. She says, I'm feeling a dark shift. I'm trying to stay in the light, but I've slipped several times in the past week. There's a big change happening in Belinda's life, and it's an unexpected change. So everything you're saying,
nothing worse than change being forced upon us.
I know, right? So here you are giving all this information, and it's really supporting what Belinda has shared with us.
Yeah.
So I felt that.
So Belinda, take heart, right? Because the changes, one of the biggest things that's been going on in the background of the major outer planets is change that's coming to us that we didn't want, or that we never knew we needed. Never knew we wanted it. Maybe we don't want it, but it comes because often, human beings, we like to hold on to things. right? We hold on to things
Yeah.
even when they're not good for us. So that might be people, it might be jobs, it might be, relationships, it could be things, right? Like Hoarders. If you've ever watched that show, it's horrifying what people will sometimes, get themselves into. And it's time for us to release all those things that are not really true to us.
Yeah.
So take heart. If something is being taken away or a change is being enacted or foisted upon you, the real question is, how does this benefit me?
Ah, yes.
Because the universe is a kind and gentle place, but you always have to be able to see the light in it, right? Even if it feels dark, right? We've had darkness.
Yeah.
Everybody has in their lives, and that isn't always comfortable. In fact, it's never comfortable.
No, it's never comfortable.
No.
And it can be very scary. It can be really scary because we automatically go to, how can I stop this? I don't know what to do. And
resisting.
And look, Belinda's saying you're answering all her questions without her asking.
I love it. We're psychic here.
It's such a, we are too, actually, but it is such a great support. And that's exactly what Angel Heart Radio is about. And I know for you too, Janet, it's the place of service. So the fact that we can support Belinda and lots of other people as well, it's wonderful. Because then suddenly we don't feel quite as alone.
And we're not alone. That's the key.
But the thing is, we feel it, we feel alone. We feel unheard or unnoticed. And it's such a great reminder that we aren't.
Ignored. Sometimes there's that, right? We're rejected or abandoned. And I want to say this, and I know it's going to sound a little harsh, but we always have the choice. The choice is up to us in how we respond to anything that shows up in our lives. We always have that choice. And sometimes it's hard to see what is it that would be the right path to choose. But if that is the case, you always have the choice on how to respond to what is happening in your life. Like you can respond with openness, an open heart, or you can shut down. You can focus on the little pinpoint of light and make the light bigger, or you can focus on the dark and make it bigger.
And as you said before, even the gratitude, we've forgotten, we've become so accustomed to gratitude journals and how powerful gratitude is that I think it's easy to actually overlook it and overstep it. So finding anything at all to be grateful for is always a great choice. And even if in that moment, it may not feel any different, but in retrospect, you'll see that it was a beginning. Yes, it does build up. Yeah,
you have to take some step forward in some way. And the thing is, too, besides Leo being populated, we also have Taurus still at the solstice with Jupiter and the North Node, which is our destiny piece, and Uranus all in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus is really good at simplifying, getting back to the basics, simplifying our lives. What's the simple pleasure in being with somebody or being alone even, or just the simple, drinking water. Sometimes it's my, simple pleasure just to drink water. In other words, we've become so complex, right? As a planet you just have to know that we have become complex,
It just is.
Life just doesn't seem to get any simpler as we go on. But it's a choice we get to make about returning ourselves to what's the simple, basic pleasure. Gratitude, love, good food, good water, company, talking to people, loving people, our animals, our plants, whatever, that we can, apply simplicity to our lives, even when things seem to be rather complex. So whatever it is that you're moving through right now, Belinda, you're not alone, number one. And number two, just keep choosing the highest road that you can. Keep choosing the light, keep choosing gratitude. It doesn't make it necessarily go away or make it, any easier. It's just what you're focusing on is going to draw more of what you want and not what you don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is so true. And it's great because that's a great support for Belinda and everybody else watching, because when you're in it, it's really difficult sometimes to see beyond it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So once you make that choice, like Belinda also just shared, she said, I was in such a bad place. I was going to scroll past, but I felt and got a message that I needed to hear this message today. So there you go. Boom. She made this choice, and all of a sudden, all this support comes rushing in. It's like once you make the choice to, to be open to it, it's like an empty vessel. All this love and support really does just start to flood in. And I think that is, such a blessing for us that is very easy to overlook.
Just got to love yourself enough, right?
Yes.
Just love yourself enough to say, I'm worthy. Let me reach out with my heart to someone else. Helping other people who are down is also a really good aspect of bringing yourself up. You can help somebody else come up.
Absolutely. So now we're coming to the last 5 minutes. Was there anything else that and she's saying she feels a lot of comfort in this, so that's perfect. So
good.
Was there anything else that you felt would be really important to share today, Janet?
Yeah, for sure. In closing, let's say, remember the sun is moving into Cancer. That is what the solstice is all about. And Cancer is a sign of nurturing and loving and growing and mothering in a way, right? It's not mothering, although, we can go to that extreme, but nurturing. And nurturing is a very feminine energy, and it's very loving. And then don't forget to self-nurture during this period of time, because it's also the most, if you can't take care of yourself first, you don't have enough to give to anybody else. So you have to fill your own cup and then share of yourself with others. Nothing else is in Cancer, although Mercury will move into Cancer later after the solstice and start adding, some new messaging around self-care and nurturing, and growth is also a Cancer energy. So the sun being here really speaks to moving ourselves to be more caring and empathic and compassionate. It mirrors the human design quite nicely in that respect. And I don't know what else to say that hasn't already been said.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean,
you have just shared so much amazing and beautiful and encouraging information today for everybody. And it's just been so delightful to be here today, because it just encourages all of us and reminds us it doesn't have to be hard work. It can be simple. And that's, something we all need to know when we're in a little patch that we just don't think we can get out of. So thank you. I've just really loved the show today, Janet.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been my pleasure. My pleasure. You guys have great ideas. Like, let's bring Janet on and talk about the solstice.
Great idea.
So here's another great idea. So having watched this today, everyone, or listened to it, if there's something you would like us to discuss with Janet, if there's something you would like Janet to clarify for you, to explain to you, go grab your chart, your free human design chart, living-astrology.com, then start asking us questions. Right there. Then start asking questions, and we'll get Janet back to explain some of that, because it's very complex. But at the same time, what I've noticed about it is, Janet, once you begin to explain it, it all makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. They're both human design and astrology. They're very complex. One of my gifts is the ability to make it as simple as possible. And to that end, on Thursday, it'll be my Thursday, so your Friday, oof, I don't know what 12 noon my time is in Australia. I bet it's real
it's now,
early in the morning.
It's 11:28 now.
That I looked it up. It's 5 a.m. our time.
Okay.
My noon. Yeah. Oh, darn. I might have to if there's enough interest in Australia for me to do this, I could change times sometime to accommodate, because once a month I do something called an Astro Design meetup, and that's this week, where you get to bring your chart and your questions to me.
Oh, I like
You can say, I want to know what Venus means in my chart. Okay, I'll pull your chart and I will discuss that with you. So, but it's at noon this week, my time, West Coast time. So 5 a.m. That's pretty early. But maybe, we can alternate a month and do it at 3 p.m. my time.
That would be great.
Or 4 p.m. 8 a.m. Brisbane.
Yeah, make it more reasonable. Yeah.
So that's a great idea. And it's generous. Thank you, Janet. So again, connect with Janet, because she's got all of this stuff available. You're only seeing a little part of what Janet is offering on Angel Heart Radio, and how blessed we are that we can offer that. But there is a lot more that you can tap into with Janet.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to personalize it so people can come. I mean, my whole thing is about making it understandable for you. Kind of so you can decode yourself. Like, why am I here?
Yes.
But without you two, I wouldn't have, I couldn't be the fountain of information if I didn't have Angel Heart Radio as a channel through which I can bring this to everybody. And you two ladies have given me that opportunity. So bless you and thank you for that. It's been my pleasure to be here.
So I just want to bring this comment forward from Julie. So enlightening, and I needed to be here. Thank you, my angelics, and you three lovelies. How good is that? Thank you, Julie. See, that's the exciting part, when we know, this has really reached into someone's heart and enlightened something or inspired something. That's what this is all about for us, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Keeps our hearts pumping.
It does.
Yeah. Keeps our smiles on our face.
Yeah. So remembering everyone, Annette McCoy will be back on Wednesday in the United States on that timeline, which is Thursday morning on our timeline here in Australia. And Annette's always fantastic. So, and again, sorry, there. So again, Janet is with Annette the first Thursday in Australia, the first, and sometimes the last. It depends on how the calendar falls. Wednesday each and every month, which is
looks like it'll be July 6th. Your July 6th, my July 5th. I'll be with her.
So you're the first week anyway. Don't listen to me. Just keep an eye out.
The first week. Yeah, we moved to the first week when you were interviewing the medium whose name escapes me. Really nice young or older man. Anyway.
Very great. Anyway.
Him.
Yeah. Very great.
Yeah. So, but now she and I are the first Wednesday, Thursday of the month.
So that is the way to really connect in Angel Heart Radio. But go and check, Janet out on Facebook, YouTube, and her website. Thank you, Janet.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. Thanks everybody for listening too.
Yeah. Thank you for being with us, making that choice. Wonderful. Okay, so Carol-Ann, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, I'm just blown away with the knowledge that Janet has, that she can put into words that are so easy to understand, and that's because I had astrology charts done years ago and I couldn't even make head nor tail of them, but that this is a completely different story. So I really love being here. Yeah,
wonderful. It really is astrology you can understand. So as you go into the rest of your day or your evening, everyone, I want to invite you to really take on board what Janet has shared today about the importance of self-love, care and nurture, and how this really is the gateway. And we're being supported in human design right now, literally in the gateway of love. And making the small choices and the big choices, it doesn't matter. Just make those choices to really care about who you are and what matters to you, and look after you and love you and care for you. And that will instigate a much bigger change than you can even imagine right now.
Right. Huge.
Yeah. Okay. All right, my lovelies. Thank you so much for being with us again. We love you, and we love
I love you too.
Yeah. Wonderful. We really do. We really love having you with us. So thanks
you so much
for making the time for us all.
All
Okay,
right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Lots of love.
Bye.
Take care.
Lots of love.
Oh, and I forgot the disclaimer at the beginning of the show. Angel Heart Radio programs should not be used to replace your legal, medical, or professional advice, nor your own sound judgment. Okay. Lots of love, everyone.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.